After 37 years as a marriage and family therapist, Dr. Karen Gail Lewis is called a relationship rescuer. She is author of 6 books and has presented nationally and internationally on a range of topics such as marriage, gender differences, adult siblings, single women, and women's friendships. For 11 years, she has run unique retreats for women.
Today, we're going to talk about shoes. Now, you're probably wondering, I can see it on some of your faces, why somebody who is known as a relationship rescuer and who is an expert in helping people improve their relationships, why she'd be talking about shoes. Shoes are a great metaphor for relationships. Relationships with yourself, like standing tall inside your shoes, and relationship with others, being able to walk in someone else's shoes. So today we're going to talk about the metaphor of shoes. Let's start with shoes as the relationship with yourself, feeling tall within your own shoes. All of you feel good about yourself, feel competent, successful, confident most of the time. And then there are those moments, those niggling little moments when your self-esteem sort of plummets and you're not quite sure whether you're feeling adequate, whether your boss is going to like what you did. What do you do when that happens? What can you do that you can get yourself back together and get inside, standing tall inside your own shoes again? So let me tell you a story about me. I'm a family therapist. This was about 30-some years ago. I was standing in at a conference around, there were about 8 men who were all the pioneers in the field, and me, which in itself was pretty exciting. So I was standing there, and these were big men. You know, they were probably tall and big, and they were probably really old, like maybe 50. And all of a sudden, it was like I sort of collapsed inside, and I was feeling like a little girl. And I hadn't been a few minutes before. I don't know what happened, but what I did was I backed out of the circle, I ran over to the elevator, went up to my room in the hotel, switched, put on new shoes. Mind you, I was wearing flats before. I put on shoes that are about 1 inch high, so we're not talking a big deal. Ran downstairs, got back inside the same spot in the circle, took a deep breath, and stood tall inside my shoes. In some ways, what I did was I faked it. You've heard the expression, fake it till you make it? I had this illusion. The shoes, this little 1 inch, gave me the illusion of my confidence. And I used that until I was able to really get it back. So I'm going to guess that probably most people don't have shoes as what they do. But do you know, some of you may know what you do when you have lost your self-esteem, how you get it back fast at that moment. And some of you may not. Can I hear, does anyone aware what your shoes are that help you stand tall in your inside? Yes?
I always remember the times when I was a kid and my dad would lecture me about Second World War heroistic actions, and I would become the heroine.
Great. So the second metaphor for shoes has to do with the relationship with others. And that's the old saying, in order to really understand somebody, you have to walk a mile in their shoes. So if you think about this, miscommunication is a major factor in conflict. It's a major factor in relationships, whether it's your personal relationship, your work relationships. It's a problem all over. And one reason there's so much miscommunication is that we don't hear very well. If you and I are in a conflict, I'm busy thinking about what I'm going to say. Right? I'm not listening to you. So we don't hear. And because of that, if we are not hearing, we're only knowing our own perspective, just the one perspective. So I'm busy knowing that my perspective, and I'm right. It's mine. The problem is, he probably thinks he's right. Yeah. And we are missing. We're just not listening to each other. We're not hearing. In order to resolve conflict, what you really need to do is you need to be able to stand tall in your own shoes and feel confident about yourself. Then you can hear and listen better. Because you're already feeling good about yourself, you're able to listen better. And when you listen, what you're going to hear is the other person's viewpoint. Now the point is to understand how he, whoever, formed the opinion. Doesn't mean you have to accept the other person's opinion, but you want to at least understand it. Because when you understand where the other person is coming from, you are now walking in each other's shoes. You now have a chance to figure out what some of the miscommunication is. Oh, you said blue. I heard you say shoe. Well, that takes care of a lot of the problems sometimes, but then there are other times where it's not that simple, but when you are hearing in each other's shoes and you can really hear what they're saying, you have a pathway then that leads you to more positive resolution to conflict. So what we're going to do, we're going to pull all this together, what we've been talking about today, and pull all this together, and we're going to do something here. I'm going to ask you to find a partner, somebody that you don't know or don't know very well, and want you to think about a conflict that you've had with somebody recently, a disagreement, conflict. Do not pick a big one. You know. We'll take care of that later. But for the moment, just pick something relatively small, and you're going to take turns doing this. And I want you to explain to your partner your position exactly, so your partner really understands exactly what your point was and what your position is. Okay? Then you get to be in the shoes of the other person. And you get to have a sense to see what, if anything, you can hear different when you are in the other shoes. Okay? So let's take a few minutes to do this. Okay, was that fun? Yeah. Okay, does anyone want to share what they learned? How about over here?
Oh, well, the other day, my boss came into my office and started screaming at me about a contract that he thought that perhaps I had misplaced. I had it all along. I just didn't have a chance to give it to him. And I realized he wasn't really angry at me. Just that the contract was so important. It was his fear of disappointing the client and not being prepared. And so when I realized that he wasn't really that angry with me, it was out of his own fear, that I just settled down, retrieved the contract, gave it to him, and we got on about the business.
Great. Yeah, how about over here?
Sure. You know, this was amazing. We were talking, and, you know, my wife always complained that I walk too fast, and she hated always walking behind me. You know, I've got long legs, and she's shorter. Yeah. And, you know, I've got a lot of energy, and I'm always excited. And, you know, talking it over here, I realized what her real complaint was, by me always being out in front of her, she felt like this little girl who was always chasing after her father. So that was the connection that we were able to make through this.
Good. Good.